What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is a 2022 Mazda 3 Premium Plus Turbo all-wheel drive fully loaded hatchback. And it's a pretty fascinating little car because it straddles a line between luxury and sportiness that is very difficult to attain in the traditional compact car choices. Your Honda Civics, your Toyota Corollas, your Subaru Imprezas. Of course, the Americans have just completely given up on making compact cars. But this Mazda really represents the company's desire to move up market and maybe compete a little bit more with the BMWs and Mercedes-Benzes of the world. And what I'm going to do for you today is review it. We're going to talk about the engine and the transmission. We're going to have a look at the styling details. We'll measure out the cargo space. We'll look at the passenger space. And we'll look at the convenience features and the safety features. And as always, if some of that sounds interesting and some of it sounds boring, check the description below for timestamps. We're going to start by looking under the hood, and there's not a whole lot to see there, but there is quite a bit to talk about. This car is powered by Mazda's Skyactiv G turbo engine. It's a 2.5 liter turbo with 250 horsepower and a very impressive 320 pound-feet of torque. Now, Mazda says in the owner's manual that it only requires regular 87 octane, this particular engine. I read on the internet some people saying you need to put 91 in it for it to reach its full performance potential. I don't know what's true personally, I'm just telling you what I've read, so feel free to argue in the comments section about that. If you do get this turbo engine in the Mazda 3, it comes exclusively mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission and Mazda's all-wheel drive system. The transmission does a fine job, it shifts smoothly, it does what you want it to do. It is a little bit of a weakness that it only has 6 gears. Personally, I'd prefer if it was an 8-speed automatic. Some cars these days are coming with as many as 10 gears, but 6 does feel a little bit light. There's a little bit more of a lag in between shifts because the engine has to rev more because it's only got 6 gears, and quite frankly, most modern cars have at least 8. One thing to note about that 6-speed automatic is you do have a sport shift system on it, but you pull down to upshift and push up to downshift on the shift knob. This is very similar to BMW and also what rally cars do with their sequential manual transmissions. As far as I know, Mazda and BMW are the only two manufacturers that set their sort of Tiptronic systems up that way. Some people really prefer it. Me, I just find a little bit confusing because I'm used to bump up to upshift and down to downshift. But hey, it's just a little difference that you get with a Mazda. Now let's talk about the styling on this Mazda 3 hatchback, and personally I think this is an excellent looking car. It's very smooth as far as the styling on the side. I think it does have really nice lines. You have the Mazda signature LED front and rear lighting, and the turn signals kind of do this interesting thing where they sort of come on and then fade out, and that really looks unique and looks nice. I like that a lot. And when you get the Premium Plus model in particular, you do get a bunch of kind of blacked out trim pieces. The mirror caps are going to be finished in black on the Premium Plus. You're going to get the 18-inch black finished alloy wheels. You have the black spoiler at the rear of the vehicle, which I think looks very nice. You have a blacked out front grille and a black sort of chin spoiler on the front of the vehicle as well. I really like the front end. I think it looks aggressive, and I like the way that chin spoiler looks, but it is pretty low, so be mindful if you're driving one of these cars of that, because I could see that potentially being an issue running over stuff on the road. Now we're going to get our handy dandy laser measuring tape and measure out the cargo space in the Mazda 3 hatchback. The length of the cargo area with the back seat up, 2 feet and 6 inches. The width of the cargo area at its narrowest point, 3 feet and 4 inches. The height of the cargo area with the cargo cover in place, 1 foot 8 inches. The height of the cargo area with the cargo cover removed, 2 feet and 3 inches. The length of the cargo area with the second row seat folded down, 5 feet 4 inches. Of course, that can vary a little bit depending on where you have that first row seat positioned. And if you need to lift something into the rear of your Mazda 3 hatchback, you will have to lift it 2 feet and 7 inches. And while we're back here, we'll have a look underneath the cargo floor. You do have a space saver spare tire with the Bose subwoofer. You'll have to unhook that before you get the spare tire out. We have some tools to change the spare as well, some jacks and some other things. So you don't get a full-size spare, but at least Mazda does give you some sort of a spare tire with a Mazda 3 hatchback. Now we're going to have a look at the passenger room, and for this I like to use myself. I'm 6'5", so let's see if I can sit behind myself in a Mazda 3 hatchback. Okay, so as we can see, I can sit in the front seat just fine. I have enough room here. My knees are not quite touching the dashboard, but in the back seat, it's just not quite happening for me. I can't really get my legs in. The Mazda 3 is a smaller car of kind of all these, compact cars, your Civics, your Corollas, your Subaru Imprezas, your Mazda 3s. This might be the smallest one, but in a weird way, it's also the prettiest and it's also the fanciest. Look at that red leather on the dashboard. It's an interesting car, this, but the back seat room does kind of suck. Now we're going to start talking about the convenience features, and I usually start in the back seat for this and point out whatever convenience features are in the back seat. And in this one, there are pretty much none. No air vents, no USB ports for your backseat passengers. You do have a little place to put a bottle of water here, and you have a center armrest with a couple of cup holders. And I will say that the leather that the back seat is upholstered in is of exquisite quality, but I just hope you don't need to charge your cell phone. Now we're going to start talking about the convenience features in the front seat, and being that this is the Premium Plus Mazda 3 hatchback, it's fully loaded, so it does have quite a bit of them. You do have dual zone automatic climate control to go along with heated seats and a heated steering wheel. You have push button start with the keyless access system, so you do have the smart key there. Navigation does come standard, but this is sort of worth talking about. So you have an 8.8-inch display screen, which sounds like a decent number, but in practice it looks kind of small. One trend, at least amongst flat screen televisions these days, is very small to almost unnoticeable bezels. The bezels on this Mazda screen are bigger than the ones on a Vizio television that I bought at Costco in 2010. And the screen just ends up looking smaller than some of its competitors, even though it may still have the same display space. But notably, it is not a touchscreen. Mazda uses something called the Multi-Function Commander Controller, which is very similar to BMW's old iDrive system, but much easier to use. BMW still puts a similar controller in their new cars, but they also have touchscreens now, so there you go. This is not a touchscreen. You have to use this controller. I find it to be pretty easy and intuitive to use, but I have a lot of experience using these type of systems. If you're used to a touchscreen, there is going to be sort of an adjustment period for you to get used to this Commander controller, but you will eventually. You have some handy buttons on it. There's a back button, there's one to go straight to the nav, there's one to go home, and it's all pretty intuitive once you get used to how it works. Another thing you get with the Premium Plus Mazda 3 is the bird's eye cameras. So you have a backup camera, you have two cameras on the sides, and you have a front view camera as well. So they can give you kind of a composite image, sort of an overhead view of the vehicle. There's a couple of different views that you can scroll through. You can see one specifically of the sides if you're parallel parking to see where you are in relation to the curb. And there's also a front view, which comes on automatically if the front parking sensors sense that you're getting close to something. That's a nice feature as well. You do have a Bose sound system in this car, and it's worth noting that although Bose is a name in the world of speakers, not all Bose sound systems are created equal, and the one in this Mazda is very good. It's not the best Bose sound system I've ever heard, but it's nowhere near the worst either. If you're an audiophile, if you like a car with a good stereo, this is definitely a worthwhile upgrade, which is not something that I've been able to say about every single car with Bose sound that I ever listened to. A power moonroof is standard as well, and a very nice and helpful heads-up display is standard on the Premium Plus hatchback. It gives you information like your speed, it tells you what your blind spot monitors are up to. If you have the navigation active, it'll tell you when to make your next turn. It's a very good heads-up display, and I have been enjoying it since I've been driving this car. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are standard as well. You do need to plug the phone into the USB port, but it is there and it does work if you'd prefer to use that to your factory navigation system. And in the center screen where the speedometer is, that's actually a 7-inch LCD meter display is what Mazda calls it. Essentially, it's a digital speedometer, but much like a lot of other automakers these days, Mazda doesn't do a whole lot with it. It pretty much looks like a traditional speedometer most of the time. You can change a couple of the views on it, but you can't get too creative with what it does. But it does look nice and it does the job that it needs to do for the most part. Now we're going to talk about the safety features, and again, there's quite a few of those. We do have smart brake support, which is Mazda's emergency braking system, but it should be noted that there are some limitations here. Per Mazda's website, smart brake support operates under certain conditions between about 6.2 and 50 miles per hour when the object is a pedestrian or bicycle, and 2 miles per hour or higher when the object is a vehicle. It is not a substitute for safe and attentive driving and is only designed to reduce damage in the event of a collision. So if you're a pedestrian and you see somebody coming in a Mazda and they're doing more than 50 miles an hour, get the hell out of the way. You also have blind spot monitoring, which works very well. You've got the lights in the rear view mirror that show you when there's somebody in your blind spot. But what I really like about the blind spot monitoring system in this car is on the heads-up display, it gives you a little sort of sound-looking shockwave thing to tell you when there is somebody in your blind spot. This is similar to the alert that Tesla gives you on their big middle screen, but it's a lot better when it's on a heads-up display right in front of you. You do have lane departure warning and lane keep assist to beep at you when you're getting out of your lane and adjust your steering if need be. You have a driver attention alert system where I guess if it thinks you're falling asleep, it will alert you to stay awake. I guess I've been awake the whole time I've been driving this car because it hasn't gone off on me. You also have the Mazda radar cruise control. I'll make a separate how-to video if you're interested in that. And as I mentioned before, the bird's eye camera system, backup camera, front view camera, and the side view cameras. And you can scroll through the views with this little button right down here to the lower left of the steering wheel. Thank you so much for watching my review of this Mazda 3 hatchback. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like my video, subscribe to my channel, leave me a comment, and have yourself a fantastic day. Bye-bye.